I'll ask everyone to try and be brief and direct. Mr. Sally, ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When everybody's sworn in, who's going to testify?
The two people that will be testifying are Arthur Sinelli and Michael Darwin. So you can swear both of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Arthur, Paul,
Michael Dalwell,
For those who were not here last month, this application was heard last month and it's continued to the modification, so it's sort of picking up in the middle of an ongoing application. It's all yours.
Okay. I believe that you should have all received a revised site plan and floor plans in mail last week. And there is only one change to what was presented to you, and we would like this to be the official site plan which is considered tonight. The only difference between the site plan you received in mail and the plan that I'm going to hand you now, which is been going over with Mr. Murphy, he has a copy of this, is that there is a view corridor, if you will, benefiting his client, John Murphy's client, the Attaways, that says no vegetation or buildings greater than 12 feet tall are to be placed within this area. Other than that notation on the plan is identical to the one that was sent to you last week.
Last week, so this is a recent change.
Yes, sir, today.
You don't have language.
that's what you're getting at, right?
It's on
here?
now.
Sorry.
But that's the only change.
Yes.
How is that different than what we have?
Only that there's a notation on the plan. Let me pull it out for you and show you. That's taken out to something else as opposed to wall. And if you will, Michael, if not on the board, if it's not on the board, you show all the board on this listed change.
On the plan that was mailed to you last week, there's a notation in this area right here, opposite the Attaways property regarding some restriction. We've taken that out and we've put these two lines in essence, this parallelogram here over this portion of the property that says no vegetation and or buildings greater than 12 feet tall are to be placed within this area. So that's the only change.
Just lack of vegetation, I think, was dispelled on the plan.
Okay.
It's my fault.
We don't have to come back on April for that.
No.
You're going to explain the difference between what we were here on last month and what...
Yes, sir, that's what I'm ready to do now. The property is in an R40 zone, which requires 20 feet of sideline setback. But if the lot is less than 20,000 square feet, then you jump to the R20 requirements. And in the R20 requirements, all that you need is a 10-foot sideline. If you, Mr. Darbo is going to testify tonight that all of these lots within that block are less than 20,000 square feet, and it was by virtue of a natural variation in the coastline that pushes this lot over 20,000 square feet. But every single lot on in this block is 62.5 feet wide. And every one of them is less than 20,000 square feet except this lot. And every house in that block has a sideline which is around 10 feet. So we're going to show all of that through Mr. Darbo's testimony.
You're implying that you don't need the relief?
I'm sorry?
You're implying that you don't need the relief?
I am not implying that at all, sir. And what I'm saying is that it's only by virtue of the coastline that this lot gets pushed into a more restricted category. But the nature of the neighborhood is such that this sideline is entirely consistent with the way other houses have been placed. All of these lots are 62.5 feet wide. So if you, this revised plan, the difference between this plan and the one that you had last week, is that the north sideline, well, the setback on the north is 10 feet. The last plan that you had was 5 feet. The south side relief requested is 16.5 feet. The last plan was 17.5 feet. So the house has been moved south 5 feet and on the north boundary, and we need 1 foot relief on the south boundary beyond what we had last time. But if you look at the original plan in fact had 10-foot sideline relief and requested an 8.5 foot relief on the south side, and the house was 42 feet wide. The revised plan that was submitted in November, 11/24, was for 5 feet in the north and 17.5 feet in the side, with a 40-foot wide house. The house is now 34 feet wide. So the last month has been spent revising the plan to compress it as much as possible without it looking like a shotgun house, without driving down the street and solely looking at a garage. And that's what I'd like Mr. Petrusinelli and Mr. Dowell to testify about. Okay, so with that in mind, Mr. Petrusinelli, you were sworn in, and you testified at the board the last time. If you could just briefly explain to the board what efforts you made to make this house less wide.
After the last board meeting, there was a concern for having a 5-foot setback. We have increased that to 10 feet. And we have actually made the house width-wise smaller. Like Mr. Lloyd Liberati said, from 38 feet, we haven't just gone down a couple of feet, we've actually reduced it down to 34 feet. And we're, because of time constraints, we have spent many hours planning this house, and you'll see that it's very efficient-wise in the plans. So I would hope that the board would take that into consideration, and we have a new floor plan within a month, and we're down to 34 feet. And I think the old house was around 37, almost 38 feet wide. So we're actually proposing a smaller house now.
Then the house that we burned down.
Then the house that we burned down, that's good.
All right, and now I'd like to have Mr. Dabo testify, please. Mr. Dabo.
Any questions?
Oh,
What was the old house, the one that burned down? How long?
Mr. Dabo will give you that information.
Two questions. Looking at the new plan, you're saying 16.5 feet. This is really 18.5 feet except for the chimney that comes out.
Yes, sir. Yes. We're seeking 16.5 foot relief, but the chimney sticks out too much, so it's really 18.5. Yes, sir.
But you're looking at 16.5, so I'm trying to change the motion, the decision. So you're looking for relief that's 10 feet on the north and 16.5 on the south.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
But the point being, the 16.5 feet only relates to the chimney.
But it's still-
Yes, but we're asking for that.
All right, fine, all right, okay. All right, let's go.
Mr. Dabo, would you please, the question's been asked and you can answer it now. Did you do a study of the sidelines of the house in that block?
Yes.
And could you please testify as to what you found?
Yes. We located the 4 dwellings to the south, which in essence puts the block from Lease Avenue to the extension of Terrace Avenue. Yes, Terrace Avenue ends.
Did he testify last time?
Yes.
So he was qualified as a real estate expert.
No, he was qualified as a surveyor.
So there, okay.
Yes.
So Bay Terrace, the improved portion ends at Calder Street. There's an unnamed right-of-way, part of the original plat when it was first approved, that has another 50-foot right-of-way to Narragansett Bay, and also includes a little bit to the north and the back of a couple of the lots. That's, I imagine, is to get everybody in that plat access to Narragansett Bay. Our property, which is the most northerly property, is about 25,000 square feet. All 5 of these lots are 62.5 feet wide. If you look at the shape on a plan that's called Plan of Land for Arthur Petrusinelli, we mailed you one of these copies also last week. The 4 dwellings